Good afternoon. Welcome to the second session of Day 2 of Art Fair Talks. I'm Boots Herrera, Director of the Ateneo Art Gallery, one of the education partners of Art Fair Philippines, together with the Museum Foundation of the Philippines. Today's session is titled The Revolving Doors of Contemporary Art, the Influence of Market and Capital in the Art World. This is in line with the forthcoming book that Ambassador Giorgio Guglielmino recently wrote and will be available in a few months. The session will present his insights on the factors that impact the artist's career and the art market. So a brief introduction to our main speaker and our respondents. Giorgio Guglielmino is a diplomat and a writer and a collector of contemporary art. He has published several books on art, including in English, How to Look at Contemporary Art and Like It, in quotation marks, published in 2008. And this is now a geographical guide to cutting-edge contemporary art, published in 2013. He curated several exhibitions and has a regular column on Il Giornale dell'Arte. He served as ambassador to the Philippines in 2017. And I would always love to say that among his first unofficial visits to the Ateneo Art Gallery was first week, when you were appointed, not yet official. He was there for the Ateneo Art Awards event in 2017. Our reactors after George's presentation are Louie, Bate, and Christina Quisumbing Ramilo. Louie sits on the board of RL Commercial and is a managing director of LMN Advisors. He's a top executive and a prominent patron of the arts. He and his wife are one of our benefactors in the Ateneo Art Gallery of Ateneo de Manila University. Christina Quisumbing Ramilo examines and reimagines objects in their context through a comprehension of material and site specificity. Her artistic practice involves an interest in and respect for the life and history of objects, often using unconventional materials and utilizing objects themselves as material, most of which have been collected for years. She constructs the works in parts over long periods of time, never completely finished, that ultimately express her personal poetries. Ramilo lives and works in the Philippines as a full-time artist. So we'll begin with George's presentation, and we'll have the response later.
Thank you very much, Booth. Thank you for being here today. And I really would like to thank the organizer of Art Fair Philippines, Lisa Periquet, Dindin Araneta, Trequilopan, not only for inviting me and organizing this talk, but for putting together an art fair which is really of an international level. I think that the work that they have done this year is amazing. It looks like you are in a art fair in London or in Los Angeles. This is the kind of level that I really wanted to see, and I think that they achieved this year. Thank you. As it was said by Boots, which I thank for the introduction, I wrote a few books on contemporary art. The next one, which is titled The Revolving Doors of Contemporary Art, will be out in a few months. But I would like to start from this book and from the framework of this book to have a conversation on the market and how the market is influencing the art scene. The title, as I was saying before, it's The Revolving Doors of Contemporary Art. The subtitle of the book will be, very bold, because it will be who is going up, who is going down, and who will remain maybe forever. So I divided the art scene, let's say, in a few sections of the upcoming artists and why they are upcoming, why they are so much looked from the point of view of the collectors, of the galleries, of the auction houses. who is going down, because there are artists which are not popular in this moment, not at all. This has nothing to do with the quality of the work. It's the market do not want their work in this moment for various reasons, and we will see, I have a few examples. Then I added in the book an additional section which is devoted to the artists which are a bit on a side. So these are the artists that never had a huge success, but never disappear. So they constantly work at a very good level, very good quality. These are maybe the artists I prefer. They're not so much involved in the dynamics of the financial market. And then at the end, of course, I will state who are the artists that, in my opinion, will remain. I will start by speaking a little bit about some example, and then, since we deal with the art market, I would like to have a discussion, of course, with them, but with the public also, on what is why some artists appear suddenly and have a huge success, why they fall, what is the influence of the finance, which is maybe not very nice in my opinion, because there's too much influence of the money in the art scene in this moment. But we will see, and we will have an open discussion. This is the first image I would like to talk a little bit about. It's Amoako Boafo. He's an artist from Ghana, but he lived and worked many years in Austria. Why I put this image at the beginning of our conversation and at the beginning of my book? Because you may know that maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, a wave of black artists appeared on the market. It appeared on the market for different reasons. It appeared because the market is always looking for new agglomerate of artists, either geographical or by any other, I don't know, characteristics. So the market is always trying to look for new baskets, let's say, from where to pick up. They are without any, I mean, they're very greedy, the market is greedy, galleries are greedy, auction houses especially are very greedy, and so they really try to, okay, now we will exploit the black artist market, and they pick them up. What is happening, I mean, the same happened with Chinese artists 20, 25 years ago. What is happening is that, of course, they pick up maybe 100 artists. Prices of these artists go, I mean, skyrocketing. Then, only in a matter of a few years, 90% of these artists will disappear, which is not very nice for collectors, because of course the collectors bought pieces at a very high price, and after only, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, the price that they paid can no longer be achieved at auction. I mean, at auction, the price of these artists go down 70, 80, even 90% of the original price, which gives you a little bit the kind of speculation that a lot of people are doing. But, of course, as it happened with Chinese artists before and with black artists more recently, the positive side of this is that in any case there will be a few artists that will remain, that were discovered and will remain. Amoako Boafo, for me, is one of these artists. He's an excellent author. He paints basically only portraits of his friends, families, people that he met. And I think that it's, yes, you can see, it's very interesting because he uses 2 different techniques in his paintings. He paints the background and the dress of the portrait person in a very simple way, but he paints the face in this case, and also the parts of the body like the arms or the legs. He doesn't paint with brush, but he paints with his fingers, and I think that you can spot it. It's a very original technique, and I think that to paint with fingers is maybe more similar to sculpture, because you usually don't use the fingers on a canvas or on a piece of paper. So it's like he has a connection with the person he's portraying, and it's like he's touching little by little the person, and he touches the canvas as he's kind of caressing the face of the person. He has a huge retrospective in this moment in Vienna, and I really think he's one of the black artists that emerged in the last 7 years that will remain. Not many of them, but yes, he will remain. It's interesting to note that before this wave of black artists, in the contemporary art scene, there were very few black artists that were recognized. One among all is Jean-Michel Basquiat. But after Basquiat, yes, here and there, one or two, but nothing like we see today. The upcoming artists, I also put Zhang Rui. Zhang Rui, she's a young Chinese artist, basically a sculptor. I saw her works in a very interesting group exhibition in Berlin last year. She works starting from pieces of debris or pieces of, like in this case, plaster and cement from destroyed buildings. And then she had a little personal element. In this case, it's this sting that are coming out of the cement, which are stings from cactus plant. But in this case, I think what is interesting is the idea that from debris, from something that has just been destroyed, a kind of new life is emerging. So I see these little pieces like something that comes out from something that you would throw away. So it's a kind of new life coming out. I wanted to put a Chinese, because as I was saying before, the huge wave of Chinese artists came out 20, 25 years ago. Same thing happened as the black artists, most of them disappear, but now a new generation of Chinese artists is emerging. And Zhang Rui is a part of it. This is why I put her in the who is going up, the artists which are going up. The next artist, maybe you might recognize. She's a Filipino artist, Marta Tienza. She is, my personal opinion, one of the most interesting Filipino artists. I dare to say that she would be an ideal artist for the Venice Biennale. I don't want to criticize the previous choices, but in the next Venice Biennale, which will be next year, I think that, I don't know exactly in the Philippines who the board or who chooses the participant, but I think that they should really consider her, because Venice Biennale is a different place where to exhibit works. You cannot put a painter, you cannot put someone who draws on paper, although maybe they are very good or great quality. You have to impress the people with very large pieces. This is a still from a video, and on top of it, Venice Biennale is also a side of let's say, political correctness that they always look at. She is very much involved in the protection of the environment, which is something that it would surely be appreciated by the organizers and by the judges that will give the awards in the Venice Biennale. So I really hope she will make it. She is really, really, really great. As I was saying, this is a still from a video, and she works together with the people that she portrays in the video, with the people that are trying to preserve the environment, the tradition, the Filipino lifestyles in the small island. Very, very, I really very, very appreciate her. These are 3 examples in my book of artists who are going up. While here we start with the artists who are going down. As I was saying before, artists who are going down, nothing to do with the quality of their works. This is, for me, an amazing work by a British artist, Simon Patterson, who basically made only this work. Of course, he produced other pieces which are totally uninteresting, but this work, I think, will remain as a very, very nice piece. I'm sure that most of you recognize the London Underground map. So what did he do? He took the London Underground map and he changed the names of each underground station. He put the names of categories of people. For example, Piccadilly Line, football players. Circle Line, philosophers. Bakerloo Line, artists. So what did he do with this? Basically, he draws a map of our society, of our cultural elements, placing the cultural elements all at the same level. So the philosophers are at the same level of the football players. The actors and actresses are at the same level of artists. So it's a big mix of how our society works. And there is no more distinction between high culture, like the philosophy, or very low culture, like the football players. So it's very funny if you look at it, because of course if you want to go to one place to another, you take the tube at Diego Armando Maradona station. You change at the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, and then you take another line going to Sophia Loren tube. What I was saying before, this is what we are now. No distinction. Everything is mixed. Everything is a huge network, as the word that we use now with the internet. Everything is connected. No distinction. It's interesting because the title, The Great Bear, is of course the constellation Ursa Major, that contains the polar star. So this is the map that helps us and guides us through our society. It's a pity they didn't produce anything else of value, but this is, I think, very, very interesting. It's a funny character of this work is it is a print. And the copyright of the print is shared 50% by Simon Patterson and by the London Transport. And the work is not exhibited at the Tate Modern, it's exhibited at the London Transport Museum. Very, very nice idea. This is another artist that, in my opinion, is going a little bit down, and it's Cause. Cause had a huge success in the last maybe 15 years. He's a multi-million-dollar artist. But since he left his traditional gallery 3 years ago, the gallery was Perrotin in France, his huge project disappeared. His huge sales disappear. You can open any auction anywhere in the world, you will see some of his pieces that are sold. But the pieces that are sold, what are now, are basically T-shirts, like this one, small baby, small dolls. And he's really went into a market which is very far from what we consider art. This is really a merchandise artist. I don't know, this is not what I really like about art, but it's okay. I mean, he must be very happy, he's super rich. Also just by selling T-shirts, like in this case. I was saying before that there is, apart from the artists going up and going down and those that will remain, there are artists which are a bit on a side. As I said before, these are my favorite artists. This is an artist from Colombia, Doris Salcedo, which is very widely recognized. She also had a huge project in the Tate Modern. But of course, it's not an artist that you would read in any magazine like, I don't know, Damien Hirst or this kind of artist. This work is a very poetic work. It's called, as you see, Silent Prayer. What does she do? When she is offered to have an exhibition in a museum, for example, like in this case, the photo was taken at the Bayer Foundation in Basel. She sends to the museums lots of wooden tables, and the instruction to the museum is to place one table, to put like about 20 centimeters of earth, of soil, and to place the other table on top. I spoke once to a director of the museum where she had an exhibition, and the director was very afraid because she was not sure that something was going to happen. But the magic a few days before the opening happened. What is the magic? That from the soil, the grass went through tiny holes of the other table, upside down table. And again, it's a bit like the Chinese artists we saw before. No, it's something that grows from nothing. This is, as I was saying before, this is very poetic. Of course, when you go from one table to the other, it's different. Some tables are only a couple of leaves. Some tables, like this one, have a more structure, kind of grass. But it's really magic. And I think that one of the features of art is really the element of magic which is inside it. I think it's what makes art different. This is another work from a maybe not very well-known artist. It's from Belgium. One of the artists that says a bit on one side. It's a small piece, and it says, Aujourd'hui, jour de pluie. Today is a day of rain. It's interesting because you can read this work in different levels. Because of course, when you read, okay, today is a day of rain in Choris on 10 of June 1993, you think that on that day the artist painted this work. Not true, because the year of the work is 2022. So you start saying, okay, what does it mean? What did he do? So it's he painted a memory, or why did it come out after 25 years with this idea? And I think that the solution of the riddle is in the title of the work, which is only words, which means, as many other artists said, painting is a lie. The painter uses the work, but he lies. He touch your feelings, he touch your mind, but you cannot believe 100% in artists. There is a very famous German artist, Sigmar Polke, that made a huge painting and made a catalog and made an essay exactly titled The Three Lies of Paintings. So painting, you have to look at it, you have to feel something, but it can also be a trick. So you always have to be a little bit on guard, let's say. We arrive at some of the last images. This is a Julian Schnabel. I put Julian Schnabel in the category of the artists that will remain. For me, Julian Schnabel is an American artist, incredibly talented. This work is titled Portrait of God. It has been acquired recently, if I'm not wrong, 2 years ago, by the Metropolitan Museum in New York. I think that it takes a lot of courage from an artist to say, okay, what shall I do today? I will paint a portrait of God. Of course, this was done in the centuries ago with an iconography that was more or less always the same, but this is totally abstract, totally from his own mind. Julian, this is a very, very big painting. It's, if I give you in feet, it's probably 8 by 12 feet. So you're really very, very, very much impressed when you see it. And as I was saying, I think that this is one of the few artists that will remain in future. I have the last 2 images, which are more an introduction to what we will discuss. The fact that the money and market is always trying to influence more the market. 2 artists, which are, in my opinion, the 2 pillars of the contemporary art in Western world, which are Andy Warhol and Joseph Beuys. More than 50 years ago, already envisaged what was going to happen. And what was going to happen is the fact that the money was trying to take over art more and more. This is the Andy Warhol dollar sign, and this is one of many banknotes that Joseph Beuys overwrote, saying Kunst equal capital, art equals the money, let's say. So these 2 works were made end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s. So it's amazing, that these 2 so important, very different artists, but so important artists had the same vision of what was going to happen in the future. These are the images I wanted to show, which are all contained in my forthcoming book. What I would like to say now is this. As I was saying before, Chinese artists 20, 25 years ago, black artists 6, 7 years ago. What will happen next? The auction houses, galleries, collectors, investors are always looking for new places to launch and where to have where to make money. In my opinion, the next area that will be under the radar for this group of people is Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, of course, including Philippines, but not only Philippines, probably will be the next big bang of the art scene. So, and on this I would like to start a little bit a conversation. So, what can we do and what can Philippines do to not to miss the train, let's say? Because the train has a very negative aspect, as I was saying before, the investors, which have the unscrupulous investors, the whatever, and the fact that many artists will go to the stars and will be thrown to the garbage in a couple of years. But it is important that the world look at this area. Of course, I'm very much fond of Philippines because I lived here, and so I really would like the artists here, the galleries here, to grab this occasion, to do something, to strengthen and to be a little bit in the international market. When I arrived here, and then I will stop and I would like to see what you think. When I arrived here the first time in 2017, there were a lot of galleries that were selling a lot of art. Artists were selling really, really a lot, which I think in some way spoiled a little bit the artist. I think that the artists should not stop to the borders of Philippines. Filipino artists should try to go abroad. Of course, it's scary because you have to confront with hundreds of other artists. It's challenging, but I think it's important. It's important to put Philippines and in general Southeast Asia on the map. What to do to be able to do this? Maybe I would like to ask you if you have ideas on this.
Okay. As a background, I've collected art for 33 years. And my focus on art has always been initially modern masters. And then in 2006, I branched out to contemporary art. Now, contemporary art, as you can see, is risky because the artist is still alive, his work is evolving, 90 to 95% disappear. So you have to be very careful. Now, I agree with the ambassador that the next scene will really be the Philippines and the neighbors, simply because the numbers are showing it. I attended a talk recently, Silver Lens featured it, and the number of curators that have dropped by in the Philippines is amazing. You know, last year they were only hoping to find 4, and they got 4. This year, sorry, I'll have to share it, but this year they had 30 curators. So who are curators? Curators are the guys that choose the art that the museums will display, collect, and at the same time they will curate, they will set the theme, they will set the educational program. So that's a sign of what's going on. Now, but before you begin to buy with gusto, I think one needs to really do a lot of homework. You gotta see as much art as you can see. And when the ambassador asked, what can we do about elevating Philippine art, I think the galleries and the exhibitors are playing a very key role. Art Philippines, for example, has evolved from something like a garage exhibition to something that's very international in flavor. Today, it's fantastic. I mean, we're getting there. The feel is really very close to how Art Central is, for example, or in the future, Art Basel. So we're getting there, but at the same time, the galleries are stepping up. Silver Lens, for example, is putting us in the map in the US. Drawing Room is adventurous, going all around the world showing art of the Philippines. So everyone is really stepping up in the game. Finale, Art Informal, and that is helping the community itself. So I think art is beginning to find its place in our homes and finding it in a way that it's not just something you buy out of the whim. It's something that you carefully think about and to a certain extent invest in. Okay, especially when you pay top dollar. When you start paying for artwork over ₱1 million, you better think hard. Because it could be the artists you see here that will disappear, or it could be artists that continue to appreciate. Now again, you should not be motivated by money per se, but if you start putting a lot of money, you better think twice. If you're just really buying it to decorate your home, you can be a little bit more whimsical, more happy, more carefree. But if you're thinking of it big money, you gotta think twice. At least that's my experience.
I guess I have a very different take on this as an artist. Most artists that I spend time with, we don't really think of capital and investment and market when we create. So I know it's very foreign to me. I love your presentation. I agree with you totally about Marta Atienza. But that's another ball game, how to get Marta Atienza to the Venice Biennial, because there's politics involved. I don't know if artists are spoiled here in the Philippines. I don't see artists being spoiled. It's an ecosystem of artists creating their works, maybe going through galleries, maybe going through independent spaces. It's a combination of everyone's support, I guess, in terms of Filipinos exhibiting abroad. That would be great. I don't think any Filipino artist would not want that. But it's also dependent on curators, their programming. So it's complex.
Thinking of what you said, it is true that I also noticed that this year there's an international presence which is more of substance than previous year. There are curators here. For example, there's an important Italian gallery which has a space also in Hong Kong that came here, and maybe they will have a project in the next art fair. To complement a little bit what we were saying about the importance of this area, a lot of galleries from Europe and from US open in Asia in the last 10 years. Not only in Hong Kong, which was a kind of traditional place, but also, for example, in Korea. Korea has a lot of important galleries, open spaces. It would be wonderful if some of them would open, maybe not a gallery, but a space. So if some of the Western galleries could have one person here, based here, to look around, to see what is going on. That would be, I think, an important factor. Maybe Boots wants to add something on this.
Yep. Well, responding to the last, what you just said, actually, I think within the region, a number of galleries from other Southeast Asian countries have been developing a strong presence here. One, I believe, is setting up a new space, opening a new space, and these are galleries who have been promoting, including Filipino artists in their regular exhibition program. So perhaps we also look at within the region, how the region is supporting each other, the countries within Southeast Asia are supporting each other. And I'm sure some of the galleries, like I know Silver Lens, you have Yi Ilan and a few other Southeast Asian artists in your roster. So that helps a lot because it's sort of bringing together our resources. But I'd also want to ask you, Giorgio, what made you say that some of these artists will stay on, will remain in the, yes, you mentioned a few,
Yes.
but can you cite some factors that you think will
But artists from the Philippines
no,
or in the
from what
world?
you cited, and maybe we can see
Well-
how it adopts to the Philippine context. You mentioned that there are some artists who will remain and stay for for a
Yes.
longer period?
Well-
What are the factors?
As I was saying before, at the end of the book, I mention only 10 artists that, in my opinion, will remain. Two of them, of course, are Joseph Beuys and Andy Warhol. What is important for these two artists, and then I will mention some others, is the fact that not only they produce a huge number of important works, but they, let's say, if you imagine the art as a line, they really bended the road. So after them, the art went in a different direction, There are, of course, I will give you example of the Western art, but there is a very important artist from 100 years ago, which is Modigliani. Modigliani, I think it's very important, but it didn't move the history of art. He was like a separate artist, produce very interesting work, very beautiful works, but on a totally separate, in a totally separate way and unique way. Andy Warhol and Joseph Beuys. Let's put the Andy Warhol. After Andy Warhol, there is not a single artist in the world that can avoid thinking of what he did. Andy Warhol mass-produced art. In his opinion, art had to go as broadly as possible. He was producing prints in a very high number, like, I don't know, 250 copies of the same print. And it's interesting because one gallerist that was working with Andy Warhol once told me, if you want to have in your collection a real Andy Warhol, you have to buy a print, because the print is the essence of his work. Now, the fact that he used prints in such a large number, the fact that he used everyday objects, the fact that the way that he portrayed celebrities is something that maybe as an artist you do a totally different kind of paintings, but you think about it. You cannot avoid thinking of what Andy Warhol meant for the history of art. Same is for Joseph Beuys, that was a totally conceptual artist. And so this is why, in my opinion, these two artists will remain, because not only they produce very beautiful works, very important works, but they influenced a generation of younger artists. This is a bit what the...
You cited earlier the first artist, the African artist, Boafo.
Yes.
You did say that he will remain. In what sense? As a market favorite, or will he be able to sustain his practice? So it's really more of that particular.
I think in the 10 artists that will remain, I decided to put one black artist. She's Kara Walker. Kara Walker is an American artist. She is previous of the wave of black artists, and I think it was important to insert a black artist in that category. Amoako Boafo could be someone that will remain. I think it's interesting the fact that after many years in Vienna and after his success, he went back to Ghana and he started helping the young generation of artists in the capital Accra. So it's not someone who is happy with his success and that's it, but it's someone who is trying to share it with his own artistic community. I think that's very very positive of him.
So I guess it's also the social capital, no, that they build.
Yes.
Of these artistic practices. It's not just about sustaining their own personal practice, but creating a community.
Yes.
Which I think is also what you recognize with the practice of Martha Atienza.
Yes,
being
yes.
founded, Goodlands.
Goodland.
We invited Ling and Louie also to look into how do you think would this apply in the Philippine context. Ling, you were saying earlier you don't really pay attention to the market, but as a practicing artist, you have been consistently exhibiting, being present in exhibitions, art projects. So perhaps as an artist, how would you describe the Philippine, not the market, but the art scene?
Yes.
Because eventually it will relate to how the market behaves.
I think Filipinos in general take risks, and that's why although the market, the art scene here is predominantly like paintings. But for some reason, I don't paint. I used to paint, but my practice is mainly non-painting. So I've been very lucky that I've been invited by different galleries to exhibit my works. They don't always sell. Sometimes I sell, and I'm very happy. And I'm happy that the gallery also is happy. It's still generally paintings here in Manila. And you'll notice here at the art fair, there are some sculptures, not too many installations except for the special exhibition. I hope it changes. I hope it goes beyond the Philippines. But I forgot your question again. What was the point of
Yun, you actually are answering it.
Okay. So yeah, I've been very lucky with my practice being not the usual painter artist. So I've been very lucky working with established galleries. Sometimes I do projects with experimental spaces. That's always a good experience, even though it's bad sometimes. So it's
Bad
always
in
a
the-
learning experience.
Okay. How it was managed. you mean.
Yes. I've been generally lucky working with different spaces.
But you also mentioned other artists that you work with, or you're not necessarily a formal group, but I know you have a circle of artist friends
Yes.
who have a similar trajectory as your practice, or not really painting oriented, and they have managed.
Well, I can mention Geraldine, who's very well known as a painter, who is very successful as a painter, who's also very marketable, but has shifted into making different sorts of art, which I totally admire and respect, because you're not gonna make as much, and it's probably more work because she's also working with a community in Batangas.
Yeah.
So that's another, I don't know, genre that's very risky, but she's at the point in her life where she
She can
just
take risks.
yeah, she can take risks. So I respect that, and generally, my peers, people even my students, my former students, just do their own thing. So I don't know. What do you think, Louie?
Louis, what about you? The art
no.
scene, the art
Yeah,
market.
well, before I begin with the art scene, I just want to comment on Andy Warhol. I'm not a collector of foreign art or anything like that, but the thing about Andy Warhol that not everyone knows is there is one guy who controls 800 works of Andy Warhol. So every time it hits auction, he buys it and keeps the price elevated. So sometimes when you think of an artwork that's worth 10 million, 100 million, you think, oh, that must be an important artwork. But sometimes it can be because someone is keeping it up there. So that's a trap, in my opinion. Andy Warhol is great, pop art, so much, but the price he's keeping, I don't know. So that's something you have to also understand. When you buy a piece of work, local, international, you also have to figure out, what am I paying for? Why am I paying for that price? Because you're going to see a lot of that. Galleries are going to say, uy, mahal na to, galing na to, mataas, 5 million, 10 million. But sometimes it's an illusion. And when that thing pops, you're going to find yourself with a work that's worth far, far less. That's why it's very important to do your homework. Very important to understand the landscape. Now, moving from Andy Warhol, in the Philippine scene, capital plays a role definitely because it's the galleries that invest in the artist, that promote the artist, that gives the artist a life. Because sometimes that's what it is. And these galleries also want to discover new artists, so they don't stop with the ones established. They're going to experiment, they're going to take risks. They're going to take someone who's been sidelined, experiment, and see what will happen. And I will not name galleries that do that, but there are. And I will also not name artists that have gone down because I can be criticized. But there are artists that actually have been celebrated years ago, 5 million, 10 million, who are actually struggling to sell their works for 1 million, 2 million. So that's something you always have to remember about art. And so what happens in the US, what happens internationally, happens here too, but in a different context. We don't look at ethnicity, we don't look at color, we don't look at that, or from Cebu, or nothing. We look at the originality of the work. As Ling would say, Filipinos tend to be adventurous. Yes and no. If you go around the art fair, you're going to see a lot of lookalikes. People are going to try to be the next Ventura, or the next this, or the next that. These are traps. Because you don't want the next Ventura, the next this, the next that. You want an original piece, someone that will carve his own path. And that's what you put your money in, right? That's what you really look at. But at the same time, there are some that are too adventurous that it becomes too hard to understand what they're doing because they're trying to do a shock treatment. They're just trying to shock you. So it depends also on how mature a collector you are. Frankly, I am quite conservative, so I've been late in some of the artworks. Like, I don't own a Martha because it was different. It was a video art that couldn't resonate, but now that you've begun to grow, you realize, oh my gosh, I missed out. Because sometimes it's like that. Like, I was fixated with figurative art. So I only collected Manansala, Anita, so on and so on. But then I saw the works of Hoya. Then the works of Zobel. And then now you see other artists doing abstract work, and you really begin to appreciate it. Because then your eyes are open, right? When you see exhibitions, when you see fairs, all of a sudden you see works that you took for granted that begin to speak to you. So yes, the scenes are very, very similar, but not in this context.
Yep.
This is so global. This is so... I can't afford this.
No, but if I can comment on this, I totally agree on the fact that people should go and see as much art as possible in galleries, in museums, even if you don't like it. You go there, you can easily say, no, this is not my type of things, but the images will remain in you. So you have to train your eyes with the work. So go as much as possible to see any kind of exhibition. And regarding what you were saying about the Andy Warhol, this is another reason why it should be better to buy a print. So you spend, I don't know, maybe $10,000, and you have what many of the experts think it's the Andy Warhol that you have to own.
Okay, the conversation is going in very interesting directions. Do we have any questions or comments from the floor? Esty?
Hello, hi. As an international gallerist, we are one of the ones that just came here to visit the fair. We are approaching the Southeast Asian market and the collectors. We found an incredible ground. It's fantastic, really. The collections here are great. The galleries are doing an amazing job to bring the Southeast Asian art outside of the region. And they're succeeding. It's fantastic. It's really, the mood is very high. From our point of view, there is one question, though, is we are very open to understand, to study, and to learn about what's going on in the region and what happened historically. What is from the region to the outside, so to the collectors mostly, the question is, are the collectors in Southeast Asia open to expand their collection, their own collection, to international art? To what extent? Because obviously the collections in Southeast Asia are, at least at this point, for our point of view, mostly autoreferential, like looking at the region, which is fantastic. Extremely beautiful artist and a valuable collection. So our question is, do you want to bring your collection towards an international scene, or this is like an illusion?
Collectors in the Philippines belong to, I would think, 3 camps. I belong to the camp that only patronizes Philippine art. My collection has always been Philippine-centered. Except for sculptures. I've begun to buy plensa. So I have a plensa, I have a unizar. So for sculptures, I've begun to experiment. But largely, I belong to the camp of just really buying Philippine art. There's a second camp which only buys international art. And I've seen their works. One of the big collectors is actually in this audience. And I've seen his works of Damien Hirst, Tracy Emin, and it's fantastic. So there are also those that open their eyes to international art. My concern with international art is, in the Philippines, as a Filipino, I basically know the artists, understand my culture, and really appreciate what is good and bad. I know the whole body of work. When I step into the international world, I don't know what they are. I don't know what the best Andy Warhol work would be or what the other artists would be, so I'm lost. And in fact, when Gagosian came over, Gagosian is the largest gallery in the world, the most influential. When he told me to look at international art, he said, don't buy for 1 year. Just go around, look, and then after a year, come back to us. I never came back. But the point is, no, because it's priced above me. You know, if you want to get a masterpiece of a good artist, it's something that I can't compete. You have to really go early in the game. But there are some very successful collectors here. Like the black artist you had there, a guy who here collects those artists, and he's done very, very well. And his collection is international standard. So that's the second group of art collectors who really get the best names. They own a Prince, they own a Warhol, and these are Filipinos. And then, of course, the third selection is who does both, who straddles into local and international. And so there are also who does that, like one who just got an art space. They own the whole building, so he's collecting international and local artists. So it's the scene, I think, is very vibrant. And the important thing is people are really recognizing art as really part of your, I don't know if you want to use the word portfolio, but it should be part of your living space. You spend money on a house, spend money on art. So I think that's where it's headed. That's just my view.
But Gagosian is waiting for you. He
May
doesn't forget.
But I would like to give back the question to you. Are you ready to present Philippine art internationally? From what you
We wish, obviously. We are studying the Filipinos artists, but not only Filipinos, the Southeast Asian
Southeast
artists.
Asian, yep.
So we are doing a lot of homework too.
Okay, that's good.
And we wish and we would love to support, obviously, from the region to the outside, 100%.
Thank
So the other way around. We believe in that too, and we understand that it might take a bit longer for that reason, right? To try to educate the Southeast Asian collectors to the international market too, as they are educating us
Yes.
on the region, about the region.
Thank you.
I just have a question for mostly aspiring artists who come from other countries like the US, UK, so pretty much migrant creatives. You mentioned that there's going to be a boom in Southeast Asian art and like international gallery holders looking for art in this region. For those kind of creatives who produce work outside of the Philippines, is focusing on ethnicity a fad or is it a strategic move?
Ethnicity, like in the
Focusing on
US.
ethnicity. So,
Like in the US, they
yeah, so promoting yourself as
Promoting
an
as-
artist of a particular region, like Filipino Australian, Filipino UK, Filipino Swedish.
Filipino American. Yeah.
Well, of course, artists can take advantage of the fact that foreign galleries are looking at Asia at the moment. Absolutely. Of course, foreign galleries generally have a high standard. So, I mean, I don't expect that they will accept every artist they see here, but they will be very careful to choose the artists that, in their opinion, have a high quality and a kind of work that can be sold around, because a gallery is, gallery have to sell art, of course, that's their job. I think that if you want to emerge, you have to play a little bit like a football team, everybody together. I will give you a small anecdote from years ago. I was living in South America, and I went to visit a lot of artists and studios and curators, both in Argentina and in Brazil. The two countries had a totally different attitude. In Argentina, I remember artists saying, "Oh, if you went to see the studio of that artist, I don't want you in my studio." Or things like that. If you went to that gallery, no, that gallery is horrible. Don't go and look. This was the attitude in Argentina. Argentinian artists are not very much in the international map. I went to Brazil and I was shocked by the attitude of everybody there. Galleries, artists, curators, everybody was trying to promote everybody else. Then maybe behind my back they were stabbing each other. But in presenting the scene in Brazil, they were really helping each other. One artist organized me a lunch with another artist. This artist invited to the lunch curator. A curator said, "Oh, you have to go to that gallery and to that gallery and go to another artist studio." It was really an army. And I think this is the right attitude. So I think that if you go to a gallery here, the gallery, of course, when presenting the art to foreigners, especially, the gallery should also say, "Oh, go also there, go also there, go to Ateneo, go to Silverens, go to Drawing Room." They should not fight one against the other. They should present what to say, as I was saying before, an army that goes in the same direction. This is what also I think artists should do here, promoting one another.
So you're not really saying how, if Philippines is more like Argentina or...
I hope not. I hope not. There are mixed signs.
Yes.
So,
Do you want to respond to the question?
I guess in my experience, it's usually based on curators. They have like a concept. So sometimes you're included in that niche of like Filipino, Canadian, Filipino, German, Filipino, whatever. I know there was a recent show of reacting to Nena Sagil's works by...
Recently, yes.
Yes,
I think
recently.
It's on Go.
And
Yep.
I actually...
And these are by artists based overseas.
based overseas, yes.
Oh.
And
I haven't
I was
seen it.
personally a little disappointed because I did a series of Nena Sagil works
And you were not-
like over a decade ago, and I couldn't be invited. I know the
because you live
curator
here.
because I live here in the
Yeah,
Philippines,
okay,
so
okay.
it's a little tricky. So sometimes you can be in the ball game, but for some reason or another, because of the curatorial makeup of it, you can't be. And sometimes you luck out and you become part of it because of who you are or where you're from. So you just have to keep on working.
Okay.
You'll finally find someone interested with the right theme and concept.
That's Ling, the teacher, who's speaking. She's
you.
always that way with her students. Any other questions, comments?
let me just say, of course, this is this will be my next book. I've put a few copies of the last book, which I published here in Manila. Of course, they're for free. Someone is interested.
Actually, we talked earlier and we said whoever asks a question will get a free copy of the book. So maybe we can distribute
I get it.
the books, and then if it doesn't run out, you can select. Okay, yes, a question.
My question, well, actually, it's a comment, more of a comment. I agree with most of what you cited earlier about galleries abroad, international galleries being more active here in the Philippines. And I also wanted to suggest that the Philippine galleries here could be much more open to international artists who are also open to interacting, or rather doing shows here in the Philippines with Filipino artists and coming up with very, very, or rather curated shows that are might be well received abroad and internationally. And coming from a starting curator, I'm also very much enthusiastic about future shows, or future shows that include young international artists collaborating with young Filipino artists here, and challenging the shows, the concept of the shows, and the concepts of the artists here, and coming up with better, well-received shows.
Yeah. No, thank you. Of course, it's important, as I was saying before, that the Filipino artists go abroad, but it's also very important that international artists are shown here. Maybe some of you remember a large exhibition that I organized as Italian Embassy in 2018, just before COVID. We had an exhibition of Arte Povera at the Metropolitan Museum, when Metropolitan Museum was in its previous space. In future, as I mentioned before, the Italian gallery, who is in Hong Kong, has a project to bring here next year, on the occasion of the fair, a very interesting group of Italian artists. So things are going both ways, let's say.
Could I add one more? I hope that I could also invite some of my artist friends abroad to come here to shows to show in the galleries here. I have some 50-year-old or 40-year-old artists that are already very much internationally known. So if we could collaborate with some of the galleries and then come up with shows here that are well received, then maybe that will be better too.
One of the practical problems, but of course it's not for us to decide, is the difficulty of importing
That's correct.
foreign works here, because it was easy for me when I was ambassador, because we did a temporary importation, and then because it was the embassy, everything came without major problems. But of course, if you do a temporary importation, you cannot sell. And for the galleries not to be able to sell, it's a little bit challenging, let's say. But maybe, I don't know, some influential people here should press a little bit.
Don't look at me, I'm not influential.
The government here to ease the importation of foreign arts.
A problem for us.
Yeah.
Maybe just for your information, there's an ongoing exhibition at the Ayala Museum that includes local and foreign artists, photography, show, photomoto, and curated by Angel Shaw. They're young artists collaborating with Thai artists, sila ano,
Hindi.
oh,
In Gravity.
Gravity Art Space. So there are things happening, no? So yeah, thank you.
You mentioned that you see Southeast Asian and Filipino artists as, the next frontier. Do you collect artists from this region? And if so, could you share a few names, and would they be included in your next book?
Well, when I was here at Ambassador, yes, I bought a few pieces of young Filipino artists. I bought a few pieces for me, but especially I bought a few pieces for the embassy, because what we did in collaboration with Ateneo, of course. You know the Ateneo Art Awards. As soon as I arrived here, we decided to include in the Ateneo Art Awards an Embassy of Italy award, which was an acquisition award.
The purchase price, yes.
Yes. So every year, in every edition of the Ateneo Art Awards, the embassy was acquiring one piece from one of the 12 finalists. The idea was to create inside the Italian embassy, which I think is a very nice concept, inside the Italian embassy, a small but growing collection of young Filipino artists. I'm very happy to say that the present ambassador recently renewed the agreement with Ateneo. So the collection of the Embassy of Italy will grow.
Continue to grow. Even your immediate successor,
Yes,
Ambassador
yes,
Clemente,
yes.
continued. So every year since 2017, and you even joined the
And
COVID edition of our purchase price.
Yes. We went, and I must say I'm very pleased because some of the works that we picked up are from by artists that their quotation went very much higher. For example, in the Embassy of Italy collection there is a very beautiful Dina Gadia work, which in this moment I think would cost more than twice or maybe 3 times what we paid. So it's
Yep.
Good afternoon. I'm Marites Pineda. Reacting to the request of the curator who wants to bring in artists from abroad, it was my son who launched the art house Lakbay exhibition, tapping Filipino artists who were abroad for a long time, have their careers there, and were never able to come back to their homeland. So if there is any information, you can get in touch with me. My son is not here right now, but I would be willing to relay that to him, because he plans to continue this, because he really feels that the artists abroad, the Filipinos abroad, should have a chance to really have a place in the sun here in their own hometowns. And the ones that he brought, he just contacted some of them through the internet. And they were so trusting and cooperative that they came all the way here, no? So it's only the beginning, so I think we can move forward in this direction.
no, but I think it's already happening because, for example, if you go today to the Silverlands booth, you can see a very beautiful and very large Leo Valledor work. Leo Valledor worked most of his life in the United States. He's a Filipino, of course. He worked there. He was in touch with the most important minimalist artists of the States, but he has been not rediscovered, but represented and re-exhibited by an exhibition that was last year in Silverlands. The piece that they are showing today, it's really what I would describe as a museum piece. It's a wonderful piece. So this is a case of a Filipino artist that worked most of his life abroad, that now has been more than before recognized in the Philippines.
Okay, I think it's already time to end this conversation. I think more, you can continue with the discussion conversation after individually. I'm sure there are other gallerists here and artists who would be interested in pursuing similar concerns. So thank you, Ambassador Giorgio Guglielmino, or Giorgio, Louie Bate, and Ling Quisumbing. Thank you for this engaging discussion.